basically you have covered nearly all the fields. I'm just interested, as you mentioned, on the hotspot Wi-Fi's. Will these sites, will there be sites that would be blocked on these hotspots? Because I'm just a little concerned about the younger generation tapping onto sites that might not be too good for them.
At the moment, it's not blocked. We don't have a provision for any site that it can go to. It won't be blocked. In fact, no sites in Fiji are blocked at the moment. There are certain, for example, if say Rishikul has its own, internet service over here, and if so if I go and use one of the computers in the rooms, and their feed comes from a main server, they can block it from that way. So I got a complaint the other day from one of the students. They said in one of the university campuses, they could go to the website of all the political parties except Fiji First. He said, why is it blocked? So I said, I don't know, you need to talk to your administrator. But they had done that allegedly. So you can do it in that sense. But if you go to say we create that as a Wi-Fi hotspot, you can go to any site you like. We don't at the moment have any blockages. No. So, potentially what you're driving at is that if some kid goes on the phone, they can do that at the moment in any case. Because even if I have data on my phone now, without even going to a Wi-Fi hotspot, I can go into, say, a pornographic site now. People do that. So it's a question of teaching values and all of that to the young kids. But we don't have any blockages at the moment. You see, because creating blockages in the internet, actually, once you step into that, you have to have a lot of resources to be able to do that. And it's very difficult to do that. So at the moment, we rely on people's sense of what is morally correct and what is right, and families hopefully teaching their young children to go to sites that they should not go to. I mean, I've had that. My sons, sometimes they go on phones or the TV where you have internet, and they're watching kids, and sometimes they do a search and something adult pops up. So you have to be really vigilant to make sure they don't watch it.
I hopefully in future, we do look into this as well. I work in the community a lot, and I do see that we have lots of problems. I am a GP, by the way, and I deal with mental health. So that's my specialty. And in that case, I see a lot of younger children involved with pornography, and the parents have a real difficult time reforming, because we do not have such rehabs and such facility in the country. So if we take some initiatives, I know basically it's from home, but we see that a lot of parents are in a working environment, and they cannot actually most of the time have an eye over the children. They are very smart. They can do that, So
I've spoken to some parents where they, for example, they give the children iPads. You can go into the system and block sites yourself on the iPad systems yourself, or even on the phones. You can block it yourself, so they can't access it. Some parents do that. But of course, they can be, of course, be creative, or they can go to a friend's phone that's not blocked, and they can access that too.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. First of all, I would like to thank you and your team for taking up your time. It's a chilly night. I can feel the cold. For the time you have taken, of course, this is one of the many very fest that your government has been doing. Of course, I have never been to any post-budget forum as such, and not necessarily a question, but there are many fests that we have seen. First, in terms of free education, first in terms of many other things, pre-budget consultations, and today the post-budget consultation. What I would like to know is these many ideas that you come up with, many fests that has never happened before. Where do you get these ideas from? Or are we, is it because through the pre-budget consultations? Or is it we following some foreign government models when we come with a budget every year? Thank you.
Some of the initiatives we come up with does come up because of the pre-budget consultations. Like one of the ones that I forgot to mention was, when we met with the university students before, they talked about how they wanted to know how much debt that they have. So as announced in the budget, we now students who are on TELS will get a 6-monthly statement on their debt situation. So they don't know exactly how much debt they have. So we are in fact in the process of developing an app. So they can download, they can go download the app and be able to access their repayments when they get it. So they get on the app. So they're fully aware of that. So those are the kind of things that we get as feedback that we take on board and we include as part of the budget. Of course, for example, the 20 places, that's something that we've looked at too ourselves, but we've also had students in the past write to us saying, I've got a place. There's one student who wrote to us, I think they were from the West. They were very good in science. They got accepted to do genetic engineering. And at one of the universities, I think it was in Australia. But of course, under the TELS provision then, we could not fund it because it was only for studies in Fiji. But we've also seen a demand ourselves. We want to, for example, upgrade the civil service. Very few civil servants have PhDs. Very few civil servants actually have masters in specialized areas. I think there was a trend at one stage, everybody just went off and did an MBA without actually using they could say, I've got an MBA. It was not relevant to their particular field of study. So we have those sources of ideas. Of course, some of the ideas, we have our own original ideas. Some of the ideas that we do have, we may have our own ideas, but then we look at other countries as to how they've implemented it. So it's a combination of, input from different sources. And we look at, of course, things like, we've had so many cyclones, we said, well, hang on, we cannot keep on doing this year in, year out, paying all this money, unbudgeted funds. So can we develop some form of insurance? Then we reach out to experts, like this GP one. We've got somebody from the Asian Development Bank who's helping us, and he's very good at it. They help us to fine-tune it.
Thank you, sir. For this budget announcement, let me say this thing that this budget is the father of all budget, and my sincere appreciation of this budget announcement and what had happened in the budget, and our appreciation that the government is putting all the initiative to get the people life sorted out. And once again, it's a humble thing that the government is putting the initiative in sorting out people's life. Let me, I have seen in the budget they were...
Can you put the mic close to your mouth, please?
There were environmental tax on the plastic. I have seen the government have allocated money to Nasinu Town Council of collecting rubbish, kitchen waste every day. But while I'm taking a walk from my home to just say 5 km, I see all the rubbish and everything are lying down there, blocked drainage are there, untreated waste are there. If you'll take a walk to Kings Road and you will see untreated waste for golden manufacturing is on the drain, and it gives a filthy smell. The government have done all initiative to give people a better life. The what changes itself does not change until and unless the authority, the government cannot do micromanagement, we know, but we have to see that people are using in the higher rank and the initiative you are putting on that they have to see the lack of people in Nasinu Town Council, like we have seen that untreated waste are there. If we take a walk in Kings Road, just behind here, we can see untreated waste and the filth smell we can hear. And we can see the bushes are growing much. Though they are collecting rubbish every day, it does not give the people, the town repairs here the amount, the way the government wanted to see. And on the other hand, we have seen about our COP23 that the government and our minister have, our Honorable Prime Minister is doing much that our name is in the map. Like the American president even knows where Fiji is and who's the president. And that is a big achievement for us. But on the other hand, I see the smoky buses are there. The buses is about to fall down, but the drivers are still driving. So why can't LTA itself have someone who go sit in the bus and they can book or just say, get off here, and then you take the bus in their possession, that it is not worthy to run. Those kind of things, the smoky buses. And now I have never seen that there's a smoke test going on. It's like we have seen before, we used to see smoke tests were there on the road. And now we cannot see that. But we can still see that government is using much money on controlling the environment, and the pressure comes to the consumer. Like 20-cent levy on the plastic, we do appreciate that there is a control measures done there. But on the other hand, we see there is another gate open that our money, the taxpayers' money, has been draining out. So on that basis, we have put tax on fizzy drinks. Today, my personal experience, I got tested while walking in the town, coming to the bus stand. I thought to buy a drink. When I went to buy a drink, I see the price have gone out. Okay, my appreciation is that okay, there is a control, that we do not have NCDs and all. But my request to the government is that why don't we reduce price on the milk? Why, if I wanted to buy a bottle of water, it still costs the same. So there must be an alternative to one drink to the other. Like a healthy drink, there should be an alternative for people that, okay, you are not to buy just because there is a tax in the system, but there should be another drink, like packet of milk should be lesser. A packet of milk should be lesser than what it was. And on the other hand, my surprise is that all initiatives been doing, like I remember that NFP leader, Mr. Biman, said that lamb chops price will go down. But once they say the price is going down, and it went opposite, it became up. And now we are looking that government is putting all the initiative, and my surprise to the supermarkets at the moment, that the budget was okay, people are happy, but once we go, the cost of living is not going down. The cost of living is not going down. And I always think of myself, no matter the price, how high the wages goes, but why our cost of living is not going down? It always makes me think that all initiatives are being done there, but the cost of living stays the same. Though if next week people start getting, for example, $5 an hour, but it will just impose back to the consumers. The consumers is in the cycle, and it will be impacted on them. So I would like to see more that the cost of living is adjusted somehow or the other. And I have recently seen in the supermarket after the budget, and it's to my surprise that the price went skyrocketing. And like people would say that I'm saying the truth, and my personal experience and other people's experience. So this kind of control, sir, we need to see if the tax is imposed, but it goes direct to the consumers. And the consumers are we, and it's a struggling life for people to go through. And in the budget, I have never seen, like I was thinking that, in the budget I was looking that in the budget there should be allocation in the legal system too, that there is a priority in civil matter, that if a person has been unlawful terminated, or if the matter have gone to the court, because the stigma what have been given on him, he is relying on the court to take the outcome. But the disposal of the court system is lacking, still lacking. Though the government have done a lot, but the disposal system of the court is very lacking. For example, people, wait for years. So my question is that in the budget and all those things, though the initiative and the hard work the government have done, but there is no changes happening.
You made a number of assertions which I don't agree with. You have not given me any facts and figures. I have not seen the price of goods go up immediately after the budget. The budget came into effect yesterday. The price of goods have not gone up immediately after the budget. Maybe the price of soft drink has gone up. Yes, it has. Now, I think if you raise a number of issues, first of all, the environmental issues. You're absolutely right. There are many businesses in Fiji, not just in Nasinu, that carry out illegal activities, that do pump, waste into water systems, and they should not be doing that. And obviously, we have, as you know, the allocation for a Ministry of Environment has been increased. If you look at this, where's the ECAL brochure? If you look at this ECAL, this is the money we collect from ECAL and STT. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but by law, we changed the law last year that every single cent that's collected through STT and ECAL must be spent in climate adaptation or environmental measures. So, before, when I don't know how much you know about government funds, but before, whenever government collected any taxes, it went to what you call consolidated fund, the pool of money, and government basically spent it whichever way it wanted to according to the budget. Under STT and ECAL, when we brought about the law, we cannot touch that money except for environmental and climate adaptation measures. So, for example, we've already moved 3 villages to higher ground. It costs money. It's not just about relocation of villages, but it's also about ensuring that they have sustained livelihoods. We have another 43 villages to move to higher grounds. If we don't do that, these people will be living in water. So this money goes towards that. Rural electrification, all those types of initiatives, every single cent is accounted for. The other thing that you probably forgot to notice was that the Ministry of Environment has now been merged with the Ministry of Waterways. It's a very, it's very important to do that, because as you were saying, when people, for example, dump waste into the drainage systems, it eventually gets into our waterways. So it's a, it's a synergy sort of that needs to be developed between that. So that obviously gets addressed. So I cannot understand how that is tied up with the budget. And you're saying that, now we have a burden of paying 20 cents. Yes, the burden is there to pay an extra 10 cents. It's not going to burst your budget. The reality is there are many women's groups that actually make baskets. I don't know how old you are, but I remember when I was younger, people used to take to the market, the basta? They used to make bags out of the basta, the sacks that you have sugar and various other things. We've done away with that. We now use plastic bags. We have to change our mode of behavior. So in order to change people's mode of behavior, you need to sometimes use monetary incentives to do that. Now, if you go to the market now, if you buy vegetables, if you buy a roro, they put it into a plastic bag, you don't pay any levy for that because that's exempt. Plastic bag levy is only when you go to supermarkets or pharmacies and service stations. So we've given a 2-year warning. We're saying now, to get people to change their behavior. Also, we hope to sort of shame people into getting plastic bags, not getting a plastic bag. So the idea is that we change our mode of behavior, and then we, of course, then have a complete ban in 2020. So I cannot understand why you're linking it up to people's, somehow the other they're being deprived of some opportunity as a result of that. It's actually changed the pattern of behavior. The fees that we actually collect is not that significant at all. What is more significant is what we collect from ECAL and STT. We collect about $150, $170 million. Now, there are various farms in Fiji that actually now has electricity. Some of them are connected to the grid. Some of them have what you call independent solar, powered systems. Now, those people have been asking for electricity for decades. Nobody had any initiative for them. They're being funded through this. So people saying, how do we get the money? It's being funded through this. So similarly, for example, the issue about cost of living. I remember reading when I was a young kid, I used to go to the political party campaigns with my father. He was not a politician then. I remember people talking about cost of living going up then too. So you see, cost of living is something that is people politicize it. And of course it gets a lot more heightened now. So the reality is you need to look into it. What are we doing about it? You also have to understand economics. I mentioned earlier on, we don't make flour. We make flour, sorry. We don't grow wheat, right? So tomorrow, you can come and complain to me and say to me, look, the price of bread has gone up. The price of flour has gone up. How can government intervene and do something about that when Australia is going to put up the price of wheat, right? How can we intervene if the price of fuel will go up? You expect government to subsidize it? So every time you go and buy 1 liter of fuel, I pay 50 cents for you? Of course not. Government will spend all its money subsidizing that. In 1973, when we had the world crisis on fuel rises, the Ratu Mara government then set in place the Prices and Incomes Board. That's when they start doing price control on things. So you see, there are different measures you take. So in the same way with wheat flour, when the input of wheat comes into the country, They can sell at whatever price they want. We have absolutely no control. But the moment the wheat lands in Fiji and flour is made out of wheat, that's when we do the price control. So flour is price controlled, right? So Punja and Sons, FMF, when they sell the flour, they cannot have a margin more than a particular percentage that the Independent Commerce Commission puts in place. So there are certain basic other food items that are price controlled, like cooking oil. We don't make cooking oil in Fiji. Every single ounce or milliliter of cooking oil comes from overseas. So when it comes to Fiji, we then price control it. So that's how you control the cost of living. But I can also tell you there are many things that we also choose to buy that we may not have to buy. If you today go and say, I want to buy long bean, I want to buy cabbage that's all grown in Fiji, I want to buy choreya, right? Whatever it is. I want to buy that, then the cost is less. Yes, if you want to go and buy a fancy cake mix, the price may be high. The other thing that people don't understand, that we brought down the VAT from 15% to 9%. Yes, we put up VAT on the other items too, where there are 6 items. You see, again, a lot of people are talking about bringing down the price of goods by bringing down VAT. Let me use the flour example. Right. If there is VAT of 9% on flour, now assuming 1 kilogram of flour costs $100, assuming, and you pay 9% VAT, right? So you say, okay, I'm going to remove VAT. So instead of paying $100, instead of paying $109, I'll pay $100. But if the price of wheat goes up, and it goes up to $200, irrespective of whether remove VAT or not, the fact of the matter is you'll still pay $200. Nearly 60 to 70% of all the items in any supermarket is brought into Fiji by 5 or 6 agents. Right. You see, Shiri Gounder, who heads fiscal policy, heads under him an economic intelligence unit, which we set up 2 years ago, or 18 months ago. Some of the people who are working there in his department are here with us. They are monitoring prices. So, for example, when we zero-rated duty on all baby products, we have a young population, a lot of babies are being made, not enough perhaps, but we're getting babies being made. So we need to reduce the cost of those things that actually people use for baby products. There is only one person in the entire Pacific region that has the agency for Johnson & Johnson. When we reduce duty on any item, we expect the duty reduction to be reflected in a reduction in the price for the consumer. But because he's only one agent, he decided he'll eat the fat and the cream and everything. Instead of putting the price down, he put it up. He put it up. So we have no control over that. We've zero-rated duty, we've foregone revenue. Baby oil is not a price control item. A diaper is not a price control item, but it's gone up. So you see, what they are doing now is they're actually looking at monopolistic positions in Fiji. A company that has a monopoly of a particular product in Fiji, we're also now going to price control, or want of a better word, control the pricing, the levy they're going to put on, the margin they're going to put on, by saying you have a monopolistic position in the market. You cannot dictate the price. That's what you call a sophisticated approach to economic management. Not somebody standing up and saying I'll reduce VAT. That's nonsense. They don't understand economics. It's just hearsay. It's like pandering to the crowds. So you see, the prices of goods are determined by numerous factors. In the same way, for example, we've had people who set up buying houses offshore. We know some of the supermarket chains. They have a supermarket chain here, so they're buying lamb chops. Let's talk about lamb chops, right? Let's talk about lamb chops. So they import lamb chops from New Zealand. In New Zealand, they may be selling the lamb chops at that point in time for $2-3 a kilo. I've said this in Parliament before. For $2-3 a kilo. So he can, assuming the supermarket is here at Rishikul, I run a big supermarket here in Rishikul, and I import the lamb chops at $2-3 a kilo. Now if I bring it into Fiji, and my landed cost is say $4 a kilo, you have to pay for freight and insurance and all of that, say it's $4, and I sell it to the consumer at $10. So I'll come along and say, hey, you're making a $6 margin, right? They say, no, that's my cost, I have to pay my workers, my electricity cost, blah, 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 $10. But what some of these supermarkets have been doing, they go to New Zealand and they set up their own company there. So they set up a company in New Zealand that then buys the lamb chops from the supplier at $2, $3 a kilo. Then that New Zealand company of mine will sell it to me, to my own company, at $12 a kilo. And then I sell it to you $14. I say, see, I'm making only $2 margin. But in fact, I'm making a $10 margin. You see, that's what people have been doing. They do it in the bus industry. Various people who make buses, people who do lots of things in those industries, they all do it. So this is one of the things that we're doing. You need to take a sophisticated approach. You go behind the supply of the goods. You go behind what these people are doing. One of the reasons we've been able to increase our revenue, why do you think we're having so much savings? The reason why we increase our savings is because we're actually getting more compliance. As I've said before, one of the supermarkets just paid $54 million in taxes. If we weren't stringent about our laws, they would get away with it. So, but last point, I don't want to labor too much on this, is this. When you talk about cost of living, you need to look at how much money actually goes out of your pocket. Recently, when you had the professor, I think he's an Indian professor who was based at USP, I forget his name, he said you need to also look at social wages. Right? You understand social wages, you're shaking your head. The benefit of everybody else is that before you had free education, if I was, say, earning $300 a week or a month, I would have to pay for my kids' school fees. I would have to pay for their bus fare. I would have to pay for their milk in class 1. I would have to pay for the textbook. I would have to pay full rate for electricity. I would have to pay for my full rate of water. Today, that person no longer pays school fees. They don't pay bus fare. They don't pay textbook. They pay only 50% of the electricity cost. They get 90,250 liters free water if the household earns less than $30,000. So they don't have to pay for those things. So that money for those expenses stays in the pocket. And then they use that money for other things. That's what you call social wages. Why do you think there are so many cars running on the road now? We have not struck oil. People, there's a combination of factors. There's a lot more disposable income. So people now who used to before pay taxes after $8,600 now no longer pay taxes until they earn more than $30,000. More money in their pocket. By the way, you don't pay for all those things that I just said. A lot more money. I talked to you about interest rate. Interest rate is now a lot cheaper. My driver, Saki, who is here, he's a fantastic mechanic and he's a fantastic driver. He's always wanted to buy a car. He's got 5 kids. 4 or 5 kids, I've lost count. Right? 4 or 5 kids. Now, he finally got his car. He can now afford it because interest rate is lower. He now takes his kids whenever he has a break from work, which is very rarely, to Pacific Harbour. He told me very proudly a few months ago he took his kids around Vitilevu. They've never been around Vitilevu. You see, because our GDP has grown. GDP per capita is about $12,000. So you see, it's not all gloom and doom. Of course, there are still people who need to be looked after. Of course, we are now giving disabled allowances. Before, nobody in Fiji gave disabled allowances. No one. We now have these disabled people who will get insurance. You'd be surprised how many people actually, when somebody dies in the family, they run around looking money for funeral. Now they'll be covered because they're on social welfare.
Thank you, Say. I won't be taking much of the time. I just want to ask you one question. Like we have seen and we have heard a lot of places, NFP and Sodelpa, they are making promises that they're going to make the minimum wage rate of $4 to $5 an hour. My question is this possible? And if it is, then why can't this government do it? Thank you, sir.
Let me tell you something. I'm here wearing my hat as Minister for Economy and doing a presentation on the budget. I'm not here to talk, I'm not here campaigning. Please get that right, right? I'm not campaigning. But if you ask me a question about economics, I'll answer that. Yes, those political parties have said that they will increase minimum wage to $5 or $4 an hour. Now, people need to understand, when we talk about minimum wage, this minimum wage is only for unskilled workforce. Right? There are other different types of employment that already had a minimum wage. So if you work as a waiter, there's a minimum wage for you. I think it's about $3.40 or $3.75. If you work as a forklift driver, there's a minimum wage for that. If you work as a carpenter, there's a minimum wage for that. It's about what you call 10 different sectors. They already had the minimum wage. But Fiji never had a minimum wage for unskilled workforce. So some guy who comes to your house says, brother, can I cut the grass? I need some money. That's unskilled workforce. We have what we call in Fiji, unfortunately we call them house girls. This classifies as unskilled, workforce. That minimum wage applies to those people. Majority of the professions in Fiji already have the minimum wage, which is much higher. There was never minimum wage for unskilled workforce. We introduced it under the Beni Marama government in about 2013, which was set at $2 an hour. Then we had said there will be reviews done. There's another review done, it went up to $2.32 an hour. Then there's another review done, it went up to $2.68 an hour. Right? So minimum is $2.68. I was yesterday asked at USP by somebody who said that he worked as a security guard, was also a student. I believe it was not correct. I think he was just pulling my leg, but he wanted to make a point. So he said that he was, as a security guard, being paid $2.68 an hour is too little. But minimum wage for security guard is not $2.68, it's about $3.20 or $3.30. Somewhere it's in excess of $3. So he asked basically the same type of question. Now, to put into perspective, one of the Sodelpa candidates at USP a few months back gave a talk and said that they would increase minimum wage to $4 an hour. In that same talk, she actually acknowledged that by increasing minimum wage to $4 an hour, it may put pressure on some small businesses. And therefore she said that her solution was that government will subsidize the business. How will you subsidize the business? What, you're going to go and give them cash for paying these people minimum wage? So there is a recognition of the fact that minimum wage can have an inflationary impact if it is not done properly. It's very emotive. People say, "Are you're getting $2.68, I'll give you $5 an hour." But very good. What are the implications? As I mentioned to this young man yesterday, you see, if say assuming I'm a boiler maker, at the moment my minimum wage is $6.50. For me to become a boiler maker, I have to attend certain courses, right? I have to do certain things, then I get my certification, I become a boiler maker. Say, assuming it's $6.50. I don't know the exact rate, but assuming it's $6.50. The guy who's unskilled, suddenly his rate goes up to say $5 an hour. I think that's the NFP thing, $5 an hour. What do you think the boiler maker will say? What do you think the boiler maker will say? The boiler maker will say, this guy is unskilled, no certification, his now wages has gone up by almost 100% from $2.50 or $2.68 to $5 an hour. I am a boiler maker, I have the skills, I have the certification, I want mine to go up to $12 an hour. I mean, it's natural. That is a spiraling impact of increasing minimum wage for unskilled workforce. Now, you think that if that's going to happen, assuming that happens, you go to the supermarket, you want to buy a cold drink, or you want to buy your tin fish, the price of that will go up too. Guess what? Because the shopkeeper now has to pay his retail person, has to pay the cashier double the salary than what they're getting. Do you think the shopkeeper is going to take it out of his pocket and pay them? Of course not. He's going to lump it on the sale of goods he's going to sell to you. So he'll push up the price of tin fish. He'll push up the price of everything else. That's what you call the inflationary impact of wage rises that are not checked. So what we have said, as announced in the budget, we are going to do a review. We need to do a thorough analysis of it. We are not saying it cannot be increased, but we must look at all the implications of it, and what we are saying, we will now put in place a policy measure that every few intervals we'll do a review. Get the right measurements in place, so we can do a review, say every 2 years or every 3 years, and look at not just minimum wage, but look at the minimum wage for everybody else, as we've done with the civil service. How did we get the civil service pay rise? We did not just decide one day we were drinking coffee or carbonated drinks and decide, okay, let's put up head teacher's salary. Before, principals used to get how much? $38,000 a year? Now principals of a big school get paid nearly $70,000 a year. Significant difference. Nurses used to get paid $12,000, $20,000 a year. Now we recognize specialized nurses with a pay rise of 85%. How did we come up with that figure? It took thorough analysis. We compared what they were doing, we compared to what the market was paying, and we came up with a structure. That's what we are saying. We need to similarly do that with the workforce. You don't just pull figures out from the air. Somebody's come up with $5 an hour. It's very seductive. I go to somebody, it's very seductive. Hey, I'll give you $5 an hour. But the $5 an hour, the lady who may be working at the moment, who's maybe, say, getting paid $6.50 an hour. She's got a house girl at work, she's got a baby. She's looking after the baby. Now the house girl may be staying at home. You don't charge her rent for staying at home. You give her breakfast, you give her lunch, you give her dinner. You don't charge her for that. Most live-in house girls, you don't charge them money for that. But you pay them a salary. Now if this lady is getting $6.50 now, she's got a house girl to look after the baby, and now if she has to pay the house girl $5 an hour, do you think she'll go to work by getting $1 an hour extra? See, we have to take that into account. I'm not saying house girl's salary should not go up, but I'm saying we need to look at the impact of it. How are we going to manage it? That's the point.
My question is based on the restructure of the NTPC levy.
Yes.
Currently, there is a scheme in place where companies can claim grant through Method A and Method B systems.
Yes.
So, through your budget announcement, does it mean that from 1st January, companies will not be able to claim the 90% grant? And what impact will this have in the training sector, and who will monitor the training and development in our country? Thank you.
Sorry, while Shri is getting that, the couple of initiatives we announced. As you know, Method A, Method B, right? Most of the people Method B did not claim. If you know about NTPC. Well, the smaller guys never claim. It's dead money for them. Now, what we're saying that there is an opportunity to claim too. But we've also given 150% tax deduction. So a small business can also, for example, if they go for the courses, they can, if any expenses related to that, they can claim 150% tax deduction. Now, so you still have 10% of that going to the levy. The NTPC has about $30 million in trust. We've also received complaints about a lot of the employers saying that a lot of the courses aren't necessarily suitable for what they want. So what we've said in the next couple of years, as announced in the budget, we'll do an entire review of how the NTPC system works, what courses need to be introduced, are they relevant for 21st century Fiji or not. So the fact of the matter is that will continue, funds will continue to go there. We have spoken to the Vice Chancellor and the Chair of FNU. They need to continue to provide, and they've actually acknowledged the fact they need to review some of the courses that are being made available. So that's the landscape as far as that is concerned. No, what we are saying is that some businesses can claim. Very few businesses do claim. But you see, the reason why I want to pull up the slide is that if you have in the, where's the thing? Just put it on the 150%, the revenue policies. So you see, 150% tax deduction to employers towards the cost of training, staff training through accredited training providers, both local and overseas. That's what we said. So some people may go down that path of claiming the 150% tax deduction. You know, banks like ANZ, they bring in their own people and then they claim through that. They might find it easier to actually claim through this system, to the 150% tax deduction. Okay?